is a digital project strategist. He's currently based in the UK. Yeah. So, and he's the founder of Jasper SME Hub. He's a tech accelerator dedicated to helping small and medium enterprises globally. He's driven by passion to empower African and migrant entrepreneurs. He has pioneered innovative business training programs. He has organized high profile annual events like the SME Fest and developed digital tools like Manger and Jasper to streamline invoicing, bookkeeping, and inventory management for growing firm. He holds a master of science in computer science and a second Masters of Science in Information Technology, both from the University of Lagos, and a Master of Business Administration from Nesford University, USA. I wanted to be. I thought I'll be seeing a lot of claps, emojis dropping in the chat box. Yes, and this person is officially married. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I welcome Emmanuel Olujobi. Please let's keep clapping for him as he comes forward. He's married to Deborah Olujobi and they are blessed with two beautiful, amazing girls. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Emmanuel Olujobi. You're welcome, sir.
Okay, looks like I'm back in the lights. I'm just going to change my direction. Okay, getting better now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you also see me clearly? Am I
Yes, we
very
can see you
visible?
clearly.
All right. Thank you very much for having me. It's such a privilege to be with you today. I'm glad to be part of the family, right? And I'm very blessed to be on a call with my father and leader, Pastor Olulade. Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you for all our leaders who make this forum, educative and bless millions of people. I'm going to be speaking to you on something that is of very much interest to me as I share my screen shortly, because indeed, we can make impacts either as an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur, right? Um, there's a lot happening these days within the business space, the professional space, and we need to take advantage of opportunities. We need to take advantage of opportunities, right? So I'm going to be speaking to you on harnessing intra and entrepreneurship opportunities in a global market by young professionals. Um, you agree with me that a lot is happening within the micro and macro economic space in Nigeria, in the UK, and in several other parts of the world. More than ever before, we've been saying this, or people have been saying this over the last 10, 15, 20 years, that we're in a global village. And I cannot agree less. Many times we are limited by our mindsets, not by location. I was speaking to an engineer who is working on Manger, a contracted engineer working on Manger, a particular app we're building as an organization. And he was mentioning, I was trying to negotiate with him how much to pay him, right? Because I know he's a senior engineer, he's skilled at what he does. And he said, now this young man charges about, if I recall correctly, about $53 per hour. And he has multiple clients. Is an employee in a company, so he has multiple businesses he works for, and he has a full-time job. Now, this young man is based in Elisha. So this just goes to show you that irrespective of where we live, we can access loads of opportunities, provided we take advantage of trainings like this to position ourselves. The next thing I'm going to say before I begin fully is, many times when we attend trainings like this, the information may look far-fetched, right? When we talk about global opportunities, remote opportunities, either as an entrepreneur or entrepreneur, it may look like How do I fit in, right? I want to assure you that by the end of this session, you should be able to understand how you fit in and how to take your very first steps. Indeed, it may be such that you may not have somebody next to you who is taking advantage of these opportunities, but you can be the first amongst your network. And if it has worked for a few people, it can work for you. Now, I will start by just sharing quickly what this session should cover. It's going to be in two parts. I'm going to break a particular myth very quickly and just discuss with us how to succeed as an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for so many years. And while I was an entrepreneur as an employee, I began entrepreneurship. Okay. Fortunately for me, I worked in Sterling Bank at the time. And at the time, in 2019, the bank introduced a particular initiative. It was very novel within the Nigerian setting to encourage employees to set up enterprises and businesses. And it was almost counter-cultural, right? Because you want to expect people to give you the best of your time, best of your resources, and you're thinking about how can an employee become an employer. And so I remember having my first pitch then with the ED and several other top colleagues, and they were really impressed. So that in itself gave me a push to birth and nurture my entrepreneurship journey. The other part to them be, how do we access global opportunities? And then I'll discuss how you can win from the flanks, which means most of you are in Nigeria. A few might be in some other parts of the world. And you want to think, given the little limitations I have, how can I still win from the flanks? So certain people already have opportunities. Perhaps they are based in first world countries where power, for example, is not an issue. You don't have to worry about, say, internet. You don't have to worry about certain things. How do I compete with these people and still succeed? So let's take this journey together. The first thing I would like to say is many times people say you cannot make great impact as an entrepreneur, right? That is, you work in an organization and people expect that, or people say you can't keep working for someone because if you keep working for someone, how do you um, build wealth? You can't build wealth working for someone. Talk about Bill Gates, talk about Elon Musk, etc. You have to set up your business, you have to break free. Salary is the payment they keep you to forget your dream. All those trash pieces, just discard it. Now, you can succeed as an employee and succeed greatly. Think about, I was reading the news a couple of days back, and most of you must have seen the bonus that the CEO of MTN Nigeria is taking home. The CEO and founder of Boa Cement is taking home. The bonus that the MD, the GMD of Zenith Bank is taking home. Somebody who just spoken before me. I mean, well, let me not say too much. So we know Zenith Bank, we know the lady GMD, we know how much she's taking home in terms of package from the end of 2025 business year. So you can indeed succeed as an entrepreneur, right? We have people who became billionaires working for like a Microsoft, working for a Google. I mean, billionaires in dollars. So discard the thoughts that when people say you cannot succeed working for someone else. Now, if every single person wants to become an entrepreneur, set up a business, who would work for you? Think about it. So you need to understand your place. You can be an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur, and this session will help you understand where you fit in and how to balance the two sides. Okay, so having said that, let's proceed. Now, for you to be successful as an entrepreneur, whether you a salesman working as a product manager, an engineer, or in whatever capacity, one of the things that helps individuals succeed is having an insatiable appetite for growth. Now, this may seem very basic, but across different industries, across different sectors, across different countries, those who succeed, men and brethren, are those who have an insatiable appetite for growth. You come to an organization and you're thinking of, um, what does growth look like in this organization, right? If I spend the next 2 years or 5 years, what will growth look like, and what are the steps I need to take to achieve growth within this organization? Now, one of the first things to do is to always give more than is required. I remember, during the time working in Nigeria also, to be very honest, there are times where you want to just say, I'm just going to give the barest minimum, but many of the times you want to stay self-motivated and give beyond what is expected. You hear colleagues say, oh, it's beyond my pay grade, or I'll not do more than this. Oh, it's 5 p.m. and you see some Instagram or TikTok videos saying it's 5 p.m., they're dashing for the door. I know there should be work-life balance, but many times the concept of work-life balance is not properly captured, right? So as an entrepreneur or as an employee, begin with having an insatiable appetite for growth. You want to rise beyond the rank. And that begins, or that is implemented by always giving more than is required. I'd worked for Sterling Bank for about 7 years. And one day I just got either a text or a call from someone I was supporting another organization, right? This is a top organization in Nigeria. And he wanted me to come join him. Now, the reason he wanted me to join him was because he was moving from this one of Nigeria's, or perhaps Nigeria's foremost payment company, to become CEO of another company, was because he had seen me in the about 5 years I had worked on that particular desk, how very passionate I was, how I'll go extra mile. I took absolute ownership of what I was managing. In fact, my divisional head would call me the CEO of my desk at the time, right? So he wanted to bring me over to join him because he had seen how I was giving extra, much more than is required on the desk. So, which leads us to the third point. You should remember that every single day you're writing your recommendations to your colleagues, to your managers, to your subordinates, and then to your customers, whether external or internal customers. So every single day you show up at work, a colleague is watching to say, how does Philip, how does Janet, how does Tolu approach his or her job? Is he exceptional? Is he the one who is always complaining, things are not working well, who wants to give excuse? Or like in the UK, they call it, you call in sick, you don't want to go to work a particular day and you call in sick, perhaps because there is protection around employee rights and labor rights. You have a vacation, you don't want to book holidays, you want to call in sick, etc. People are observing you and you are writing your recommendation. That colleague, that subordinate that you've lied to, or we're Christians anyway, I don't expect us to lie, but that some people have not shown the best of their ability to us. It may become something tomorrow, it may become a CEO, may get into politics, and he needs to recommend someone and says, oh, I know Bolu, the young man will go extra mile. Oh, I know Maiwa. Maiwa is like the encyclopedia of the organization. He works in operations, but he knows every single thing about marketing. He can tell you what happened last year in engineering, right? So every single day, you are writing a recommendation about yourself. Now, the fourth thing I'll talk about is the need to upskill. We hear this over and over again. And one thing I personally think about is that because we hear these things over and over, upskill, take up a new certification, don't sit idle, it's kind of erodes the value that it should have made on us, right? Because we hear it every time from webinars, from seminars, from church programs, etc. It doesn't quite ring a bell. But take a look at this. If we do not upskill, things are changing really fast. And trust me, there is no excuse for not upskilling. I got my third master's while working in the bank. At the time, I was running two master's program concurrently. Maybe you've had this story before, right? Two master's program concurrently, and I did well at both. right? Had a family, had a 9 to 5, or maybe you call it an 8 to 8 or 8 to 7, right? I had several things running for me. I was writing books. So there is no excuse not to upskill. Every single opportunity you have to get a new certification, to get a new skill, please go for it, because those are the things that will mark you out in growing through the ranks and becoming a successful entrepreneur. Talking about upskilling, do you realize that reading about, say, reading a finance blog or reading about the economy or paying attention to details around what is happening in politics, right? Because these are areas where people don't know much about. If you talk about football, for example, great. You find a dozen people can talk about football so much. Talk about Hollywood, a movie. Those things are very easy and cheap to have a discussion on. But can you talk about the impact of the war in Iran as it relates to the prices of things in Nigeria? Right. So this is one form of upskilling that so many people take for granted. This is one important form of skilling that you can set yourself apart as an entrepreneur that would help you succeed. Now, when I get to part B, I will show you how these skills help you attract global opportunities, because you may be in Nigeria or wherever you're listening to me from, and you need to sit an interview um, from an opportunity in Sweden or in Canada, right? How do you relate with the context of having a job in Canada from Nigeria if you're not broad enough, if you've not developed skills relevant to these roles? And of course, you need to learn how to network. Networking, attending conferences, knowing what is happening within your industry is very important, because it ensures that you are seen and it ensures you're up to date. I'm in the UK, but trust me, I keep very close tab with what is happening in Nigeria, in the UK, of course, in the US, and in fact, in Ghana. I have a particular channel I follow on WhatsApp that tells me what is happening in Ghana. It may not seem interesting, but there will be a time where I'm going to meet with someone who, just in having a 1 minute conversation, I've connected with this entrepreneur from Ghana, right? Of course, as Nigerian, born and raised in Nigeria, and I have a business in Nigeria, I try to keep tab with what is happening in Nigeria. But beyond just keeping tabs, you need to understand your industry, understand what is happening across trends historically and futuristically, to make yourself a prized entrepreneur. Attend conferences, attend events, right? Be seen. It's not because you just want to put yourself out here, but because life is also a game of who has the largest share of mind, right? I pray God helps us to express all this and put this to heart in Jesus' name. Now, let's proceed. Entrepreneurship. This is still part A, and just giving us a rundown into the difference between entrepreneurship and how we can position ourselves. Okay, so we know it is setting up a business, trying to solve problems or build systems, to create value and get a reward in return. The reward could be financial, people paying for the service. The reward could be in many other forms. For example, if you think of Wikipedia, Wikipedia may be not for profits, but it gets value from you. You think of WhatsApp, for example, you may not be paying to use WhatsApp, but there are several other ways WhatsApp or Meta is getting value from you. By the way, very soon you begin to see adverts on WhatsApp, right? ChatGPT, for example, is free to use, but even the free to use version, you now see ads on ChatGPT. Who has noticed this? In the last couple of days, you've now begun to see ads on ChatGPT. So my point is, entrepreneurship is such that you are giving value and getting something in return. Now, why do I think entrepreneurship is very important? It is very important because as Christians, it is an impactful way, an important way to make impact. You know, people always say the world is not fair, and you do not get what you deserve, you get what you demand. So if we are Christian professionals, either as entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs, we need to build wealth. The world is rugged, the world is a workplace. And one important way to win is to have financial resource. And entrepreneurship is one way to create wealth because you have some measure of control. You're able to sponsor good cause, you're able to sponsor the gospel, you're able to, fight the good fights, if you know what I mean, as an entrepreneur. Of course, you can do this as an entrepreneur, but as an entrepreneur, you have a level of control that gives you leverage over some things. Now, I was telling my wife a couple of days back that if you look at Donald Trump with all he's doing, what he's doing looks almost unprecedented. 10 years back, or yes, I'll say 12 years back, if someone told you that there will come a time where a man will be so audacious that the entire world will be at his beck and calls, is going to be this kind of personality, you think is not possible in politics. But do you realize that one of the reasons why he's able to do this is because the man is wealthy? Even before he became the president, he is or he was a multi-billionaire in dollars. So when during the first GOP campaign, the first time was coming as president, he would tell you, I don't need your money. You don't need to sponsor me because I've got wealth. So it's important we understand these things. That is one thing the Jews, the Muslims understand, right? You have the power to make impacts when you have sufficient wealth. And that comes with, setting up structures, businesses, etc. Now, it is also one way to influence, you know, positive, positively influence governments, politics, the nation, etc. Now, I'm talking about not just setting up a business because you want to pay your bills. I look, you know, top level. I want to make impacts. Every single month, by God's grace, I pay salaries. And of course, I get value from my employees. But I'm happy to see that there are people who, by virtue of what they earn from the organization, are able to pay their bills, are able to get married, are able to, pay school fees. These things give me some level of joy, right? So entrepreneurship is such that you are creating value, getting value in return, but beyond just yourself, it is some form of power leverage you have to push the cause of the gospel as Christians. But then also, one of the things you need to understand about entrepreneurship is that just like growing your career, it is like a seed. There are several factors that help you grow as an entrepreneur or succeed as an entrepreneur. I remember listening to Tosin, CEO of Money Points, a couple of weeks back, and he mentioned that you cannot grow beyond the macroeconomic situations or factors within your country. For example, if you're in Nigeria, right, and Nigeria is rated, let's say, B plus as an organization in terms of rating, ease of doing business rating and some other ratings. No matter how good you are, there is the chance, or in fact, it's going to be very difficult for you to break beyond the ceiling of the global or the national rating of the country. So you might have also noticed that what people are beginning to do is that they're moving their headquarters from some countries to like in London, to the UK, to the US, because if I'm paying for a service and that service is what, say, a unit of currency. So someone from Nigeria is paying me 15 naira, right, for that service. Now, the smallest unit of currency in my own country may be, let's say, £5. Now, if someone is paying me £5, it doesn't really scratch his pockets, and someone is paying 15 naira, I'd rather put efforts in an economy where if I had 1,000 of this customer, I'll get value. In fact, for many years after I moved into the UK, I stopped or I reduced my marketing efforts within the Nigerian market. No bias. I'm a businessman and I think in numbers, right? Because What somebody will pay me 100,000 naira for, and we think, oh, I've paid so much. And if I think about paying 200K for maybe a training, we feel I've paid so much. People are willing to pay you 400 pounds, 700 pounds. Now do the maths, right? As far back as 2023, we've had people paying 420 pounds for a course, etc. Right? So you can do the maths. You hardly find somebody willing to pay 420K naira, right? Except to go to train corporate organizations, right? So my point around this statement is to say one of the reasons for a training like this is to understand how to get access to global opportunities. And that starts with how to situate your business because it is like a seed. If you plant your seed or put in so much effort, 10 units of efforts in a particular soil, you may get 30 pounds, sorry, I'm taking in pounds again, 30 units of returns. But I'm putting the same 10 units of effort in an economy, and I'm getting 100 units of returns. Does it make sense to anyone? So my point around this is I'm just looking at the charts to see if we're following. So my point around this is as an entrepreneur, ensure you are building to suit a global market. It doesn't matter if you are building, you're a fashion designer, right? And you sew clothes, you make wedding gowns. You can build for a global economy. Think about it. There is almost no um, entrepreneurship engagement that you cannot appeal to global market. Let me think about something. Let's say you um into pastries, right? A caterer, you do cakes. Now, think about it. You're in Yaba or in Ketsu or in Ikorodu and you make cakes. You think you can appeal to a global audience, right? But I'll tell you how. You can. On your Instagram page or whatever page you have, you can create content that helps people understand why they should use or they should patronize a particular cake brand, or maybe they should use this particular cake type, or why sugar is better than honey, or honey is better than sugar, or just create content that would appeal to a global audience. Now, you are serving a local audience in terms of those you're getting orders from somebody within your network in Nigeria, in Lagos. But with time, you'll be surprised to see that somebody in Ghana is saying, oh, I'm coming to Nigeria and I need to attend a particular event. Can you make 100 or 50 cakes for me, right? Or perhaps you've grown a bit and there is somebody willing to say, I have a conference in this country. Can you come with me? And I need you to become my personal caterer. So it doesn't matter what you are doing as an entrepreneur, you can appeal to a global audience. Trust me. Okay. So let's proceed. Now, I'm going to use the UK as a case study. I've had cases where, or at least one case where someone has reached out to me to say, I'm in Nigeria, but I want to set up a company in the UK, and how can you help me out? And if you are in some other part of the world, maybe in the UK or in the US, and you want to set up a business, this may help you. Now, I'm going to leave out the operational details around how to fill this form and all of that. It's very easy. You can complete it in just 1 hour. But one thing I want you to know is one of the first things to note in setting up a global business, particularly with a place like the UK, is to familiarize yourself with the cultural mindsets and nuances, right? In a country like the UK, there are different approach to doing things than it would be in Nigeria. Okay, so the first thing is to understand the nuances of setting up a business in the country where you are aspiring to expand your business into. And the truth is that even as a Nigerian, you do not need to set up a business in the UK before you earn from the UK. From Nigeria, you can set up a business, have, say, a payment gateway account that accepts currencies in pounds, in dollars, etc. And by that, you're serving a global market. But I've had cases where people want to know, okay, how does it work with setting up a business in the UK? What should I do? When is the right time? I would say First, spend adequate time. I did this for over 1 year. Understanding taxes, understanding regulations, business filings, everything is very transparent here. You must be up to date with your business filings, with taxes, understand what is to be done. Now, this may look like a whole lot, but I'm telling you that there are systems in place that help you take advantage of, taxes. And just like in Nigeria, also there are tax holidays, right? 18 months for a new business. You don't need to file taxes yet, right? But just file business returns, even if you've made £0, right? The point around this is ensure you're familiar with the regulatory compliance requirements so that you don't run into problems. Now, also get familiar with the core nuances of your sector. For example, in the UK, I have a training company, and you may want to say, oh, I've been training for so many years in my home country and I want to train right here. You can't just jump into training because, for example, if you want to train somebody less than 18 years, you have to be very careful because of certain concerns. I don't know if you have heard of the word safeguarding. I've not heard of the word safeguarding before until I moved to the UK. I don't know if you have heard of the word safeguarding. Okay. Might not be able to see. Someone has raised his hand or a hand. As a word, yes. Okay. Can someone just tell me what safeguarding means to him or her? Anyone? Okay, I believe it means protecting yourself. Okay. All right. So yes, YP-LEF is lifting his or her hand. Do you want to share what you understand by safeguarding? Ensuring personal lives are protected. Great. Any means to protect passive treasures. Great. So all of these three answers are very close to, I mean, there are no right or wrong answers, but they are very close to the context of safeguarding. Now, in the UK, safeguarding is a very big word, and it depends on the industry you're working in. It could be in education, it could be in health, etc. It is ensuring that the people you attend to or the people perceived as vulnerable are not taken advantage of. Yes, especially in education, in health, right? And so my point around this is if you've been a trainer, you could call a lot of young kids together to train them. You can't just do the same thing here in the UK or in some Western countries. You need to have certain licenses or checks before you can proceed with this kind of trainings. Now, why am I saying this? Get familiar with the core nuances of the sector. You could be someone who is a caterer, right? You could just cook food for a party, for an event, etc. But when you come into the UK, you can't just prepare food like this for an event or for a program, right? There are regulations around what we eat, around the kind of food um, you know, you administer for public events, etc. Otherwise, you run into problems or big issues, and you don't want to get into that. So, again, there is an important need for you to be familiar with the core nuances of your business before setting up a business. And I'm saying this because a lot of you might migrate to first world countries in the future. And even in Nigeria, right, there is a difference between what you've known theoretically and how it applies practically. Now, this is also very important. Understand how to access finance and grant opportunities in any part of the world. In fact, last year, I recruited someone to join us, and his core job at the time was to look for grant opportunities for us, right? In Nigeria, in different parts of the world, and we're just applying. We didn't get most of them. Some of them we got to a stage, we went for the bootcamp or the training, it got dropped, but we learned across the way. My point around this is there are loads of opportunities, grant opportunities, finance opportunities you can take advantage of in Nigeria and in the diaspora. Now, why is this important? Do you know that certain organizations have a budget for supporting entrepreneurs. For example, an example could be MTN Foundation or Sarah Energy, right? Think of Faith Foundation. So many of them, so many of them. By virtue of regulation and for some tax rebates, they want to support entrepreneurs. So, okay, look at Tony Limited Foundation, right? An assumption could be, let's say we have $1 million to support entrepreneurs in this particular year. And that's those that apply for this opportunity. We need 1,000 people to access this opportunity. If we get 900 people accessing the opportunity, it means almost every single person who applied to get the opportunity because we want 1K people to apply, but only 900 people applied, right? So we've already budgeted the money, right? Like earmarked the money to be spent on entrepreneurs, and we're looking for 1,000 people to access this opportunity. So it means therefore that if we have less than the number that have applied for this role, almost everybody qualifies because we have a target for ourselves. I don't know if you get the mathematics around that. So that's used to applying and scouting for opportunities. This is a particular core strength I have, and I'm saying it very humbly. Look for opportunities, every single place opportunities and take advantage of them. All right. Okay. Now, also, there are some things you need to, like I've mentioned, opportunities with finance, with grants, etc. Okay. But then also, while this, I've just spoken about the positives, you need to also learn the other side of entrepreneurship. It's not all rosy, right? Do you know that in a place like the UK, if you are an entrepreneur, it may be difficult for you to access some personal loans or some personal funding opportunities. In fact, that's why you also need to look for grant, etc. Because as an entrepreneur, the lender sees you as higher risk because there are times when he gets a contract or gets a lot of sales, and there may be times where you may not get sales opportunities or you may not get patronage. So if you're an employee, you might be in a better position to access some loans or some credit facilities than even your boss, who is the owner of the company. So I'm just putting this out there to say that there are risks to both sides, right? Entrepreneurship is risky. Entrepreneurship is risky, but one thing is sure. The biggest risk is not taking opportunities at the right time. So you must choose your risk. Are you following? So I just laid these two perspectives, right, to say go for opportunities, be very aggressive, take the risks. But on the other hand, know that it is not going to be a bed of roses. You may win some, you may lose some, but choose not to stay still, keep moving. Now, one of the things I've done that has helped me was and is that even as an entrepreneur, I'm not full-time. I still have a job. When I was in Nigeria, I told you I was working in a bank full-time and running a business. In fact, during those days, there was no need for me to run a business, right? I was running Excel at the time, and some of you can relate. At the time, I was charging 7.5. It was 15K. I did like a 50% bonus, charging 7.5, and was very committed to it. There was absolutely no need. I was earning very well. I moved from banking to payments, and my salary just escalated, right? And so there was no need for me to continue. But I was still looking for opportunities to train people, even as when I moved into fintech, into payments, I would tell my colleagues, all my subordinates, this Saturday I'm going to train all of you, right, in Excel. And there was absolutely no need for me to do that, but I was preparing myself. Now, when I then moved to the UK, of course, in the first few months, onboarding, getting settled, trying to get a job, understanding the climate, etc. One of the things that sustained me was this skill I had. So it doesn't matter today. If you have a very good job, you are doing very well. It is a good time to have a second form of income. Now, if you are struggling, no job, things are hard, it is still a good time to consider building wealth from a second source of income. So there is no better time than now. I just want to make this clear. I don't know if somebody got that. There is no better time than now. Choose your risks. Do something now. Don't wait for the best opportunity. You're earning just 50K or just 100K. You can still do something, even if it's just to begin to create your social media accounts, post daily, or create a WhatsApp channel, get people to begin to like your page, get started as an entrepreneur. There will come a time where the skills you are developing as an entrepreneur may be what would help you. Okay? All right. So let's proceed. Now, let's now go to part B of the conversation, which is accessing global opportunities. Like we know, everybody acknowledges that we're now in the season of AI and content. We've the most of our lives been hearing about social media age, right? Content creation, content is king, and now very recently about AI. Do you know that there are certain companies that, in a bid to get responsible AI content, they pay people to not just train the AI models, but also to I'll use the layman's word to mark the AI content as being truthful or responsible and not hallucinating. And let me explain this. If I say what is or who is let me think of somebody. Nnamdi Azikiwe as an example, right? Who is Nnamdi Azikiwe? And I ask this on an AI platform like ChatGPT, Gemini, etc. Now, what it does is that it combs the internet, it combs thousands of literature online and gives you a response. But there's a possibility if you say, who is Nnamdi Ezekwe, right? There may not be any Ezekwe, but you may be surprised the AI platform may give you somebody's profile who does not exist. That's hallucination. So what some companies would do is they get people to look at AI responses and mark correctness, and then when a number of people mark a particular response as correct, they pay them. And I mean, they really do pay them. So if you've heard of companies like Outliers, etc., they do pay people by the hour for just signing up. You take a bit of, some questionnaire to get onboarded, and people in different parts of the world are earning from platforms like this. And that is one way to access global opportunities. By the way, has anybody heard about Outliers or any of these platforms? I may be learning from you too. Anyone? Yes, Upwork. Great. Upwork, in fact, Outliers is built on Upwork, Fiverr. Yes, you've got several of them also, right? You've got Telos, you've got Prolific, etc. So take a look at how this, okay, I'm saying Hey Deep. All right, great. So there are several of them. This platform may not be your primary source of income or wealth, but it does not cost you anything to learn about these platforms, Upwork, Fiverr, Reddit, and earn from them. Fiverr choked us Nigerians, very much so. Okay, yes. So one thing is this, get advantage of these platforms before they become saturated. And these are legitimate platforms. Okay, so my point around this is you can earn from, let me give you an example. If you want to sign up to an account and they bring this 9 set of boxes and say, okay, choose all the boxes with a bicycle or choose all the boxes with an animal that can fly. How many of you have seen that? Then you click on all the birds. How many of you have seen that kind of thing? Capture. So you want to sign up to a particular platform and the platform wants to verify you are a human. And it tells you, choose all the boxes that has somebody crossing a road. Do you know that in your selection of the boxes, you are training an AI model? Now, how does it work? Traffic lights, yes, traffic lights is the most common. Now, every time you click on those boxes, you are helping the AI model behind. By the way, many of these platforms are owned by top tech companies like Google, etc. Right? So when you click on those boxes and a million people click on those boxes, you have trained a model as to how to identify, say, a bird, or identify traffic lights, or identify a fire hydrant, etc. Now, my point around this is there are other platforms that you can do the same thing and earn. Yes, you can do the same thing, click on images or models like that, and earn. So this is one very simple way you can access global opportunities from wherever you are. And imagine earning $50 in a day, $100 in a day. Even if it is $10 in a day for a start, you are earning something. Okay, so this is the age of having all marketable skills. Everybody wants to have a skill in tech. That's very great. But have a skill also in marketing. People need marketers globally, sales administrators or salesmen, right? Account managers, admin people, right? We all need tech. Tech is like the backbone of development. But you can also develop skills in several other areas, right? You may not be in core tech, in marketing, in health, etc., and attract global opportunities. I want you all to leave this training this evening and have a commitment to researching platforms like Outlier, right, like Upwork, like Fiverr, platforms like Reddit, right, like Looker, right, Prolific, etc., and see how they work. Again, like I said, when I began my recent journey as an entrepreneur, there was no need. I was earning well. I was doing very well by God's grace. But things can change in one moment. The job some people have in the next 6 months, they may not have it again. AI may replace some people. So while things are comfortable, it's a good time to make a move. And if things are not so comfortable, it's also a good time to make a move. Is that clear? Now, we cannot speak enough about remote opportunities, remote.io, several remote opportunities abound, right? Begin to get used. I mean, I'm going to do this after this call. I'll share a PDF where you can access loads of companies or platforms where you can access global opportunities, right? You can access remote opportunities, I meant to say. So remote opportunities, like the young man I talked about, the engineer in Elisha, who is earning in dollars by the hour, 50 pounds for the 3 pounds by the hour, and he has a full-time job. Okay, so you can get advantage of these opportunities, remote opportunities, working from Nigeria, from any part of the world. I even know of people, I mean, some maybe even on this training, who work for companies in the US and Canada, right? And that's their full-time job and they're earning very well. So whereas people are crying, the economy is really tough. And yes, I know it is really tough. I have family back home in Nigeria. But the point is, there are people who maybe joining you in shouting the economy is tough, but they're earning a lot from remote opportunities. Now, one strategy will be for you to try very hard to get, could be an internship opportunity in a startup company, right? Global startup company, volunteer for them or get a paid job if it is easy for you to get one. And then prove your experience with time. Okay. Use that as a springboard to get other opportunities. And then you can move up to maybe even getting a sponsored role. Okay. So the point around this is there are loads of opportunities you can take advantage of. And do not just sit and expect things to change without taking a move. All right. So next, people are earning from social media. I mean, we all know this. I personally have been a beneficiary of social media content creation on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, etc. Again, one thing I find people do is that they think these things are overwhelming. Oh, that's the way they say it. But the truth is, there are actually people earning from these platforms. The other day, I just posted on TikTok a couple of times about my trainings, and someone said, okay, she was going to give me a try. And down the line, I asked her, how did you hear about me? She said on TikTok. Okay, why did you believe you should sign up on our program? Because you don't know who I am. What if it was a scam? I said, the Holy Spirit told her to sign up. Of course, she's a Nigerian, right? So my point around this is, it just taught me that if it can work for me with just little efforts, it can work for many other people. I did a form the other day for a particular mentoring program, and I got about 44 people sign up for the program. Of course, it was not fully paid for, right? I was trying to get data. People from India, people from different parts of the world were signing up for the program, and this was social media efforts. So we can't say this enough. Social media is a great place to earn and to access global opportunities. In fact, the social media companies, if you generate enough content, because they want you to stay long on their platform, so if you're generating content for them, they will pay you, like we already know. Okay. Now, yesterday I had a session with someone on LinkedIn optimization, right? LinkedIn is also one place people need to pay attention to. You can attract global opportunities from LinkedIn. I was still in Yaba in Lagos when I was getting interviews on LinkedIn, right? So you need to pay attention to one particular niche, spend the next couple of weeks building, if, for example, you want to say attract opportunities on LinkedIn, spend the next couple of weeks building your profile, optimizing your LinkedIn profile, right? Your headshot should be on point, your headline should be on point, your introductory note should be on point, engage people, know when to like who's comment, know when to comment, connect to the right people, global talent recruiters, etc. Spend the next couple of weeks building your connections on LinkedIn and make relevant posts, and then you can move on to something else, right? So my point around this again, I always want to emphasize my point is there are opportunities you can access for free on platforms like social media, LinkedIn, that can take you from point A to point B in your career. Now, also think about applying to global professional programs. We talk about the World Bank Young Professionals Program and several others. Now, learn a new language. Now, if you want to access global opportunities, you must be able to learn something that stands you out. French is one of the most popular second language of folks in Nigeria. But think about Spanish. Now, go check up the number of people speaking Spanish globally, right? Think about Portuguese. Matter of fact, if you speak Spanish, you understand Portuguese and vice versa. So there's like a 70% familiarity or similarity between both languages. So now think about if you commit yourself to learning conversational Spanish or Portuguese, you may be opening yourself to 1 billion, um, 1 billion speakers globally. And now French is great because many of us learned French from secondary school, even though we've dropped it. But think of how many people within your network can speak Spanish or Portuguese. So imagine there was an opportunity for a company in Spain or in Portugal or in Brazil or even Angola that speaks Portuguese or Sao Tome and Principe that speaks Portuguese in Africa. And they're looking for somebody in Nigeria, right? And they find you who can just speak broken Portuguese. Won't they recruit you? Now you have Duolingo, you have some of these platforms, like for example, Chinese, you have an institute in Unilag that teaches people to, speak Chinese. And by the way, we don't like to say this, but China is becoming a global player. So if you're talking about global opportunities, Chinese is one language you should learn. So learn a language. Everybody wants to learn tech, wants to learn programming, wants to learn it, data analysis, cybersecurity. Great, please go for it. But do you know that because for every 100 people want to learn a new skill, 95% of them want to learn tech, which is good. I mean, tech. But if you say, okay, I may struggle in tech. Let me learn language. Because there are fewer people in language, you may stand a higher possibility of getting an opportunity. And that speaks to the concept of winning from the flanks, which is the road less taken, right? How long would it take me to build a career in tech and get a job? Maybe the next 6 months. But if I spend the next 3 months learning a new language with the little tech I have, would I be able to apply to companies in Spain, etc.? Yes. So my advice is learn a skill, and language is one important skill I think would stand you out. Now, one other thing I always tell people is this. As an entrepreneur, look for areas with the highest value. Now, I've been taking in a couple of weeks or months back to say the World Cup is starting, right? Billions of people are going to be watching this across the world. What can I do? Let's talk about the Premiership, right? What can I do to earn? I stay in a city where there is a club in the Premiership and people will be traveling in and out, etc. What can I do? I've been asking ChatGPT and making research on what is one thing I can do that would help me earn within this period. And trust me, because there may not be pressure, but if I earn, even if it is £10 in a week, it means I've proven the concept and I can scale that concept into multiples. And then I begin to think also, all right, people want to spend on pleasure, on information within this season, right? What can I do to provide either pleasure or information or maybe tour the city? And I may not be the one doing it. I may be the platform, and I'm just thinking of different ideas where people find the latest or the nearest hotel or the nearest, just think of something and you will hit at something. Again, my point around this is as an entrepreneur, one way to scale or to get advantage of opportunities is think of what do a lot of people want? Where do I have the numbers in this niche? And create a product around that. When we built Manger in my organization, right? I know there are loads of people offering invoicing and receipt generation. But the first thing is this. There is a huge market here. So even if it may not be something novel, like, oh, someone just discovered personal computing or just built a new Microsoft or built a new ChatGPT, it may not be novel like that, but the point is there is a market around what I'm building for. And if I have 1,000 people paying me 100 naira or £10, it means I've proven the concept and I can multiply this. Okay, so one point you want to note. Now, just putting this into say, there are certain countries with lots of opportunities in Switzerland, in Canada, in the UK, US, Singapore, Hong Kong, etc. Now, Singapore, Hong Kong are highly developed and they have a vibrant tech and health community. They have a very strong business in finance. I'm sure if you ask Mr. Nani, we tell you also Singapore, Hong Kong, very strong in finance, very strong in tech, very strong in pharmaceuticals, and most of them speak English. So look out for these countries. Now, what have I highlighted Singapore and Hong Kong? Everybody's looking in the way of Canada, US, UK, Canada, US, UK. But take a look. How many of your people in your network are thinking about Singapore, Hong Kong, right? Australia, Norway, etc. Therein lies opportunities that many people are ignoring. And the thing about opportunities is if there are, say, 100 opportunities and 150 people apply for the opportunities, you have a higher chance of getting the opportunity. But if there are 100 opportunities and 1,000 people apply for the opportunities, you have a lesser chance. So go for the place where there are fewer people vying for the opportunities for you to succeed. Does that make sense? Are we together?
Yes.
Yes, we are. Yes,
Okay,
we are.
great. So now let's just talk about this as we round up. Accessing global opportunities is a skill. Again, accessing global opportunities is Did I say unskill? Pardon me, is a skill. Anyway, that's a good way to catch your attention. Is a skill. Start early. Start from your current states. Have an immense appetite to learn. No, what do I mean by is a skill? Every skill is developed by doing, by practicing, by doing and practicing and practicing. There are people who right now have access to several opportunities, 7, 8, 10. They're like, oh, I can't even do it enough. I need to. Someone reached out to me last or 2 weeks ago. I wanted to know if I could do a particular job because she may get the opportunity but not be able to do it and wants to pass it on to me. Some people have so much opportunities. The Bible talked about the man who had 5 talents. I want to get that he once upon a time had 1 talent, and he multiplied the 1 talent, he got 2 talents, and he multiplied the 2 talents, then he got 5 talents. And in those 5 talents, he became 10 talents. And the one who had 1 talent, it was taken off him and given to one with 10 talents. So my point around this is build the skill of looking for opportunities. When I was in university, and I'm very thankful for the people around me then, because there were people very hungry for opportunities. You find out somebody having 3 scholarships, 4 scholarships, right? At the time, I had 2 or 3 concurrent scholarships running at the same time. It could cater to my school fees, my needs, and even that of my elder sister at the time. So I sustained that mindset in aggression and in the way I look for opportunities. Now, I will tell you that many times you get the unfortunate response, oh, unfortunately, you cannot proceed, you're not going to get this grant, you might have spent so much of effort, but it is a skill. You know what to do and what not to do. So the best time is to start now, right? From the current state, you may be in the university, apply to opportunities in companies within Nigeria and in diaspora. When I was in Unilag taking my master's program, right? You see young people in their final year, they'll come together, taking time to apply for opportunities in JP Morgan, in Goldman Sachs, etc., in the UK. And then when one person gets an opportunity, he comes to the UK, he does like tutorials for other people. And within a period of time, I could count like 5 people on the graduates at the time who had moved to the UK and had built a community in the UK. So you may not be in the university, but from whatever state you are, you can access opportunities. Have an appetite to learn, be very intentional about learning, show interest outside conventional areas. Now, let me talk about this a bit. I want to ask us, can somebody on this call tell me about the game of cricket? The game of cricket. We're talking about opportunities, I understand, but does somebody understand the game of cricket as we round up? Now, what's my point around this? My point around this is so many people may not put an effort into certain areas. Everybody knows about football, basketball, it is table tennis. But in developing some interest areas in niche sectors, you are positioning yourself as somebody who can fit into a global audience. Because, for example, in the UK, in the US, in offices, conversations are not just about, not about your part, the last week's party or O1P. We talk about vacation, about sports. So if you are to access opportunities from Nigeria to get global opportunities, you must fit into the global marketplace. You must be able to speak about things that meet their interest of importance to them. On an interview, if they ask questions like, what is of interest to you? They want to understand if you fit into their team. So look for interest in non-conventional areas, right? Politics, governance, some areas in sports, growth, economics, finance, open source, etc. These things are what set you apart from the others, right? Now, take the risks. We've said this over and over. Take the risks. Remember that life is a contact sport. Keep your contact very close to you. I left my last employment in Nigeria in 2023. Some months back, the CEO I talked about reached out to somebody who is, an industry player and said, contact Emmanuel for this opportunity, right? Because you must keep your contacts very close, because life is a contact sport. You may be 3 or 4 contacts away from even the president of the US or President Tinubu. So remember that your network your network is one important way to access global opportunities. My final statement is success is a game of numbers. If you've been trying, you've not gotten global opportunities, keep trying and trying and trying and trying. If you tried 5 opportunities in a week, change it to 5 opportunities in a day. And with time, change it to 10 opportunities in a day, right? With time, your effort and consistency would pay off. Thank you very much. I hope you've had a great time this evening. Do remember that there are opportunities globally, and it's important for you to open your mind to access these opportunities. Keep going, be relentless, and you'll be glad at the end of the day when one opportunity would spring you to several other opportunities. Thank you once again for having me.
Thank you very much, sir. Please, a round of applause for our facilitator. Thank you so much, sir. Please, we are in the chat box. Let's put in our congratulatory message. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much for this opportunity to learn from you. Personally, I am very happy to listen to you, and I know everyone on this call is also very excited to listen to you. And with that, we'll be giving, because of our time, we will, for few people that want to ask questions. If we have people in the building that want to ask questions, please let's keep clapping for him. Yes, let's keep clapping. Round of applause for him. Thank you very much, Emmanuel Olujobi. Thank you. I could see in the bio someone was dropping soon to be doctor. Congratulations, sir. All right. So questions. If you have any question, you can unmute or you can drop it in the chat box. Please. Thank you very much. For those that have questions, please let's drop it in the chat box. Let's drop it in the chat box. But you can unmute to ask your questions. This was a very insightful section. In fact, my books are all loaded. In fact, the action plan is ready and set for the day. So, okay, I think I'm getting in some questions. So if you have your questions, you can pen it down while we wait to interact with our facilitator. Thank you. Okay, and also we have some of our members on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining. We see you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for joining. I know that this was an insightful section for you also. So if you have any question, please drop it in the chat box. We'll be here to answer you. Thank you very much. Yes, if you have questions on opportunities, questions on how to apply for some things, what do you need to do? How do you go about it? Please feel free to ask your questions. Thank you.
Two hands are up already.
Okay, all right. Okay, you can unmute. The first person, I'm coming. Um,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel. It was really an insightful session, sir. So I have a question on entrepreneurship. I've had a couple of, listening to you and debunking the myth of entrepreneurship. Some people say for you to be financially free, you need to be an entrepreneur. Some others say not everybody can be an entrepreneur and all that. But I want to ask, I hear you when you mention the fact that some people rose in their industry or in their company. Let me limit it to the company. And then they, because of, some extra things they brought to the company and they had bonuses and all that. But is this the case for most of the companies, especially I'm limiting it to Nigeria now? Is this the case, or we have to look out for, or is something employees have to look out for before they go into any company? Like, is there potential to have bonuses? Um, is there potential to be an entrepreneur in that company, or the company has, I don't know if you understand my point. There are companies I believe are, it's almost like there's nothing you can add to it that can bring in funds. For example, education. There are some companies that is almost like, uh, you know, some schools that is almost like there's nothing you can do to bring in much money that can give you that level of, comfort that you can say, oh, I'm an entrepreneur in this place. So I just want to ask, is it a principle that applies everywhere in all companies, or
Almost everywhere now.
it has to be limited to some companies, some high-end companies? Thank you.
Right, great question. And thank you for opening the question session with this very intelligent question. Now, do you know that succeeding as an entrepreneur or entrepreneur depends on the individual, right? And I will explain how. So, just like you've explained, imagine you are a teacher or an educator in a school, or maybe you are a civil servant, right, working for the government. And the best you can do is to be excellent at your decks. Now, the thoughts are, how do I take advantage of this? And is there possibility of growth such that I become, just like I give example of MTN or tech companies, etc. Is that a possibility to happen here? Now, the answer is not a yes or a no. It is this. The first thing is to develop yourself to be very resourceful, such that you can attract opportunities within your organization or outside of your organization. Yes. So there's a possibility that because you are so diligent at what you do, your ex-students might recommend you to their father who wants to set up an organization and cause you to come and manage it. Right? We've seen people transition from civil service to corporate organizations, or from teaching to other organizations, right? So I read a story Yemi Oshibajo, former VP of Nigeria, mentioned, where at the time he had a secretary or maybe a typist, right, who was very diligent.
Yeah.
Right? This was very many years back while he was still a lecturer. And when he got opportunities in government, naturally, he invited this individual. So the first thing to understand is that it is about yourself. How do you take advantage of the opportunities where you work? Are you punctual? Are you going the extra mile? You know, the way you work in some sectors, like in education or in public service or civil service, people want to not show, or people want to, not give their best. So in those settings, it even becomes very easy for you to shine, because if you give your minimum best, you become a star, because everybody is going so low, and then normal performance becomes a standard. Now, the other thing I'm going to say is, like I mentioned, getting opportunities is a skill, right? You should also look out for opportunities in other sectors. And I'm going to use education as an example again, right? You may be teaching in a school, and I'm just using a general example, not particularly for you. You may be in a school where you earn, let's say, 150,000, right? Do not stop at that. Think about schools where you can earn 500K, 1 million, and apply to those schools. That's one thing. Number two, think about other opportunities within education. You may be surprised there's a huge market of people, particularly in the Western countries, who are Nigerians, who are looking for people from Nigeria to teach their children for two reasons. Number one, they want their children to learn the culture of Nigeria, the discipline from Nigeria, etc. And number two, it's relatively cheaper. So if I'm to pay, say, as an example, £100 to somebody in the UK, but I can pay equivalent of £50 to somebody in Nigeria, which is maybe, let's say, 100K in Nigerian, in Naira. I would choose to pay somebody 50p equivalent in Naira and say £50. So these opportunities are there. I see groups all over the place asking, I need a teacher in Nigeria to train my child, etc. So whereas you are still teaching in your school, you already have one or two opportunities from somebody in the UK, in the US you are training. Now, think about it a bit further. There are organizations that need educators, right? It could be a civil organization, it could be an international NGO. So you may not just be a teacher, you can access other opportunities within education, right? That will help you get great value for your time. The effort you're putting in can get absolute great value. A fourth thing I'm thinking of right now is this. You might have seen on TikTok, on some other platforms. Now, I'm emphasizing TikTok because everybody is used to Facebook, Instagram. But TikTok, and I did a research about a couple of weeks back, the viewing time on platforms like TikTok and YouTube, they are astronomical. You get absolute value for the same video you post on Instagram or on Facebook. You get so much more value on TikTok. So there are people who they teach maths. All they need is in their apartments with just normal lighting on a whiteboard. They're teaching mathematics. And you'll be surprised the number of people following them, or English, or science, or history, whatever it is. So in that way, you are positioning yourself to get opportunities beyond the confines of your 9 to 5. So what have I said? Number one is make yourself so resourceful that in whatever sector you find yourself, you as an individual, you are very much prized. But again, because there may be a ceiling to your growth in that organization, look for opportunities outside of the organization in non-conventional and conventional areas. Take advantage of social media to grow your personal career. It could be teaching, it could be counseling, etc. Okay. And don't take for granted that your network, even in that small place, could be an advantage for you now in the future. So still give your best. Okay. Have you got other questions?
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for that answer. Thank you. I hope he has gotten clarity on this. Okay, I
Yes,
also
I have.
saw Okpayemi. All right, thank you very much. I saw Okpayemi's hand up. Okpayemi, do you still have a question? You can unmute and speak.
So Lua came in not Opayemi.
Yeah, good evening. Can I go ahead? This is Oluwakemi. Good
Thank
evening.
you very much. Sorry. You're welcome.
Okay, thanks for the session. And we appreciate your time. This my own question is just around when our speaker was speaking, he mentioned something around being open to opportunities outside your field. I also want to maybe ask about maybe sites, maybe somebody can learn to prepare oneself. If somebody will be like, okay, for instance, I'm in all this line, maybe external this, maybe I'm going to opportunity like advice outside your career, able to earn daily like that. So I also want to ask, are there sites you can recommend for us maybe to prep oneself more and also to leverage on this opportunity? Thank you.
Yes, there are a number of sites or platforms you can get opportunities. I know that the first thing is for some platforms or some websites, there may be restrictions to some regions. I know there are restrictions. I think there used to be some restrictions to Upwork and Fiverr in Nigeria. I don't know if they've lifted restrictions, but I can talk off my head about Upwork, Fiverr. I've mentioned Outliers, right? As an AI platform where you answer a few questionnaires and you get paid. So I'm looking through also, I know of Prolific, I know you can get job opportunities from platforms like Telos. Okay, so there are several of them. So what you can do is take some time to research, and it could be on Google, it could be on ChatGPT, platforms where you can earn. Now, let me just say this real quick. It doesn't mean that if you sign up today, you start earning tomorrow, right? Because just the same way you are vying for this opportunity, so many people are vying for the same opportunities, but you must be persistent. You must understand the nuances of the platform and have it at the back of your mind that people are really earning. And even if it takes you a few weeks or a few months, with consistency, all it takes is just earn once. And the taste of the pudding is in the eating, right? So platforms like Upwork for, handiwork, right? Fiverr, Outliers, etc. You would get lots of opportunity. Another thing you can do is sign up on platforms, even locally, where if you are a handy person, right? Say, for example, you're a plumber or an electrician, etc., and I'm not discounting those kind of people, you could also sign up on those platforms and be seen. Okay, so that's one way to also put yourself out on those platforms. Can we use VPN? Well, it's up to you if you want to use VPN. I don't know the ethical thoughts around using VPN, but it's up to you to decide. But just thinking anyway, before the next question comes up, if a platform will not allow you access it and you need to use VPN, really think through, because so that you don't have your phones trapped, and also because they will say way one person is thinking of using VPN, so many people are thinking of using a VPN, and with time, the provider will see a lot of people from a particular region using VPN and then block out the entire region from using or accessing that platform. So you just want to be on the ethical side of things. I'm not saying it is a sin or it is wrong, or just think through the lens of your consideration for using VPN, etc. All right. Any other questions?
Okay, I don't think there is any other question, except if I check the chat box, but there is no other questions. Okay,
I've got
thank you
questions
very much.
anyway.
Okay, you said?
I've got questions. I'm a teacher, so when I teach my
Oh,
students online, I must ask questions, right? If that's okay.
okay. Yes, questions are very important. And for those that still
Yeah,
have questions, please drop it in the chat box, or you can also drop it in the platform for the next thing. So because of our time, I will be welcoming the second moderator to take it up from here for this section. Thank you, Ezekiel Namani. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Esther. We want to appreciate our facilitator for tonight. I believe I'm audible, and I want to appreciate everyone that has taken out time to also join us here tonight. I believe that we have been loaded tonight, and I know that your time here has not been wasted. And like our facilitator just said, or like our moderator did say, we could go on and on to just give some time to get some more questions, but because of time, we would be bringing it to a close here. At this point, allow me to just call on our grand patron, that's the person of our pastor and our father, who is always here with us on this call to give us some closing remark as we bring this session to a close. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Well, I call everybody Mr. but Chief Doctor, but I know Emmanuel will just want me to say Emmanuel because of the filial relationship. I teach entrepreneurship at the postgraduate level here, but I must tell you there is so much of take home for you that you have listened to him tonight. He has added value to us, ladies and gentlemen. Blessed are your ears for what they hear. There is so much to pick, and the next session should not meet you where this has met you. Let's go and upskill. Let's go and showcase what we have. Let's ensure the fact that we are making use of this so that we can also be there to tell our success stories. Once again, Emmanuel, it's a very good evening. You have added value. We are very grateful. We will always come back again for more. And maybe next time we will have testimonies to share of what you also have done for us. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you for
Thank
having me.
you very much, sir. Very apt. So appreciations are duly accorded. Just to mention to us, first, let me just appreciate somebody indicated she's joining us for the very first time. You are very much welcome. It's a house of value. And like my moderator said initially, we meet fortnightly and we deliver value to young minds. Can I just recommend that you do yourself a favor by listening to this particular session again and also sharing with persons who you feel could not join and will need this session. We can always get this on our YouTube link. So every time we have this session, we are streaming on YouTube and we are also here on Zoom. So once again, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight on the 24th of this month. In 2 weeks' time, we'll be here again and we'll be looking at an interesting subject, life, a product of cause and effect or predestination. So calling all the thinkers, the philosophers, the psychologists, come around. 2 weeks' time is going to be an extremely interesting time on this session. Without further ado, we're going to bring this session to a close with a word of prayer. Father, we are grateful for tonight. We thank you for the privilege to share. Thank you for the gift of our facilitator. And thank you for the privilege to share value. We ask that the grace to translate this knowledge into results, products, the wisdom to apply these learnings grant to every one of us in Jesus' name. All the helps we need, the people, the places, the events, order our steps aright. And as we sleep tonight, inspire us the more. Thank you, Lord, because we know you have answered. In Jesus' glorious name, we have prayed. Once
Amen.
again,
Thank you. Good night.
thanks very much for joining tonight. We appreciate our team
So
putting this
we'll
together
drop the
for
link
us.
to join the platform.
See you in a fortnight. Thank you very much.